Welcome back to the Marvel Review Series, and today we're taking a look at X2 Wolverine's Revenge. Now, one look at the title and the box art, and you'd be led to believe that this is a direct movie tie-in to the second X-Men film. I mean, there's the film's logo up in the title, and hell, Hugh Jackman is on the cover. Well, Wolverine's Revenge was released to tie in with the film, but it's got nothing to do with it whatsoever. It's not a prequel or a sequel or a side story to the film, but rather an original story that seems to be taking place in the Marvel Universe found in the comics instead of the film continuity. The only constant between this game and that movie is that Patrick Stewart voices Professor X. However, this game not being a direct tie-in is the least of the game's problems. Wolverine's Revenge is an experiment in torture to see how long you'll play before the game snaps your will and you go insane. It's a game so frustratingly bad that honestly I almost broke my controller in anger. The story tells a variant on the Wolverine origin story. The game opens with Wolverine's induction into the Weapon X program, and we learn that the scientist that gave Wolverine his adamantium claws also maybe placed a virus in his body that would kill a normal human in about a year, but due to Wolverine's accelerated healing factor, it might take longer to run its course. Fast forward to the present day, and Beast has learned that that virus is going to kill Logan within 2 days, so Logan suits up to go out for revenge, doing what he does best. The story is actually pretty interesting and uses some cool X-Men characters throughout. Logan comes across his fellow X-Men, Colossus and Rogue, while getting into brawls with Juggernaut and Magneto. It's a pretty decent story, and you'll want to see it through to the end, even if the gameplay will prevent you at every goddamn turn. The one issue with the story is that it does end on a pretty big cliffhanger involving two very big X-Men villains. I'm assuming the writers hoped they would get a sequel, but obviously that never panned out. While the story in Wolverine's Revenge is decent enough, the gameplay is where it all starts to fall to pieces, as if Wolverine himself sliced through them with his claws. The game is a beat-em-up / stealth game. Yes, I can't believe that someone that those two game genres was a good idea to mash up. And yeah, because when I think of Wolverine, a superhero that goes around doing this, of course I think stealth mechanic. While most of the game has you in giant levels beating up bad guys, there are segments where you are supposed to be stealthy, though the game fails on both of these fronts. The combat is stiff as hell and you slowly land one hit at a time, and there's hardly any chance that you can dodge incoming hits. You can choose to either punch things using Wolverine's fist or take out your claws and hit them that way. Surprisingly though, I found hitting enemies with your bare fist over the claws seems to work more often. After hitting an enemy a few times, you get to land a strike move, which is like an insta-kill. And these moves are kind of cool to look at, but they repeat, so get used to seeing that throwing animation over and over again. You also get to use Wolverine's accelerating healing factor, though Wolverine can't regenerate health unless his claws are retracted because reasons. Also, the healing factor gets turned off in certain levels because of plot, I think. Even when it does work, it slowly regenerates. There are health pickups to make it move along a little faster, but they're pretty rare to find. Also, when you do find them, you find like 5 or 6 of them in a pack, and usually only one will heal you to full health. So you end up leaving the other 4 behind, only to then have to go about another 3 rooms down, get your ass kicked, need more health, and then have to backtrack to grab that one health thing you left in the other room. The stealth works even worse. You have to hold the left bumper to stick into walls, and then wait for enemies to come close and perform the kill. It is possible to do this in the scripted areas where the enemies are close enough to walls that you can easily get to them, but in the bigger areas, in like the second level when the plane crashes, it's a chore to have to get into cover and wait forever to have enemies to get close. And once they spot you, there's really no way to get back into stealth or to have them reset and go about their normal paths. You're basically screwed at that point. And now you'd think there would be a way to perform a stealth kill from behind, but apparently Wolverine can't do that. No matter how quiet you are, no matter how stealthy you get, even if you're right behind them, the game has no method of allowing you to sneakily kill them just like that. It has to be you're glued to a wall and then you strike at them. Also, as expected, there are some levels where the game forces you to use the stealth system, and if you mess up just once, it's an instant game over. The biggest flaw behind all of this, though, is the level design. The levels themselves are pretty short, but they're big to traverse in some cases. However, there are no checkpoints. You die and it's back to the start, and considering how messed up that combat is, and the faulty stealth controls, and the instant stealth fail missions, you're going to die and mess up a lot. It becomes so flippin' annoying to get all the way through a level, make your way through wave after wave of enemies, barely working around the controls, only to die and be told, game over, try all that crap again. I mean, seriously, they couldn't put checkpoints of any kind on some of the levels? This was the biggest issue for me to overcome. I mean, the combat's pretty lackluster, but it's manageable in spots, though knowing that just one death, one cheap move, one wrong turn, one insta-kill into a pit I can't see, and it's back to square one. It makes the whole game seem way harder and longer than it is. Presentation-wise, though, it's pretty good. The graphics are good for an early PS2 game, everything runs smooth, and there's hardly any slowdown when multiple enemies gather up on screen, although it's not crazy how many we get to see at one given time. Character models look alright, although it's not surprising considering when this was released, though for whatever reason, some of the characters have eyes with no pupils and they glow. I'm not sure why. For the voice cast, as I mentioned before, Patrick Stewart is on hand to voice Professor X, and he's just as good as you'd expect. Before playing, I was actually wondering if Hugh Jackman would have voiced Wolverine. Considering that his face is plastered all over the box, and he really does like playing Wolverine, I thought, of course he'd want to do something like this. As I started, it was pretty obvious that this voiceover guy wasn't Jackman, but it sounded strangely familiar, so sure enough, when I checked in the credits, and I found that Wolverine is voiced by Mark freaking Hamill. Hamill does a great job and is definitely the standout here. Just like when he voices the Joker, you get this feeling that Hamill would be the last person on Earth that you would ever expect to voice this type of a character, and yet just like the Joker, he knocks it out of the park. Also, as a bonus, there are some outtake cutscenes of Wolverine recording his lines, and they're definitely worth a look, since it's essentially Hamill goofing around in the recording booth. Overall, X2 Wolverine's Revenge is a very underwhelming experience. The story is engaging and it does what it can, but the level design and gameplay bring down that whole experience so fast. As a Wolverine game, it fails to really deliver on making you feel like Wolverine. Instead of quickly dispatching enemies, pulling off slick combos, and making mincemeat out of anything that crosses your path, you're stuck with a boring, slow, and repetitive combat system, or dealing with the trial and error that comes along with the stealth system. Seriously, a stealth system in a Wolverine game? I just can't wrap my head around that one. Wolverine's Revenge felt like a chore to get through. It was a strange experience when I was more relieved at seeing a cutscene take over for a few minutes rather than actually being told to play the game. So we continue on with the Marvel Review series, as next time we get to look at a game featuring the first Avenger, Captain America. Thanks for watching.